In this video, we dive into a true crime case so shocking, so cruel, that it forces you to question the very nature of humanity. On May 4th, 2010, it was a beautiful spring morning in Edinburgh. People going to and from work filled the streets, buses came and went from stops, and office workers hurried to another normal day. Suzanne Pilley, 38, was one of them. She is known for being friendly, reliable, and regular. As she always did, she left her house with her bag in hand and her distinctive blue and purple coat on. She was going to her job on Thistle Street. In the city core, security cameras watched her every move. They saw her get on buses, go to the grocery store for breakfast, and walk down streets she knew. Then they stopped watching her. Suzanne was last seen a few steps from her office, and then she was gone. What happened in those minutes would lead to one of the most haunting murder cases in Scotland. Suzanne stood out not only because of how she looked, but also because of the light she had inside. People who knew her well often said she was sweet, kind, and always thinking about others. She was a loving daughter who checked in with her parents every day, sometimes more than once, just to keep the relationship strong. As a friend, she was dependable, funny, and loyal. She was always the one who could make people feel better and cool down. A lot of her life was shaped by her love of small pleasures. Suzanne liked being outside in nature, walking around Edinburgh on roads she knew well, or going to festivals that filled the streets with music and color. She also always had books with her. She joined several book clubs and spent hours reading and talking about books with them. Suzanne believed in giving back more than just her hobbies. She quietly got involved in community service and charity work in her city. She left her mark on the city not with big acts of kindness, but with the steady kindness of small acts every day. When Suzanne married her longtime friend Peter Durand in 2004, she started a new part of her life. Their simple but friendly wedding took place in Las Vegas, which was their choice. The couple was married until 2008, but they stayed close afterward. Suzanne and Peter were able to stay friends, which is a rare sign of how much they respected each other. After that, love was harder to find. Suzanne was in relationships that hurt her deeply. At one point, she was engaged, but she broke up with her fiancé right away when she found out he was using cocaine. In a different relationship, the got worse and left mental and physical scars. Because of these things, she moved around a lot, as if she were always looking for a safe place to leave the pain behind. She never gave up on the idea of being stable, though. Her job turned into a support for her. Suzanne was a bookkeeper at Infrastructure Managers Limited. She was in charge of the company's finances and wages. People saw her as a great worker because she was always on time, polite, and dependable. She was always on time, never missed a day, and did everything she was supposed to do with all her heart. Suzanne did what she always does in the morning on Tuesday, May 4th, 2010. She left her flat on Whitson Road at 8:19 a.m. and started her daily journey. She got on bus number 2 and later switched to bus number 4 on Stevenson Drive. Her big, blue-purple coat made her stand out that day. She carried her normal shoulder bag and a water bottle. She got off the bus at 8:49 a.m. and walked to her job on Thistle Street. As she did every day, she went to the Sainsbury's store in St. Andrew's Square to get something for breakfast. After she paid, she texted her dad like she did every morning, and then she sent her mom another message thanking her for feeding Mercury, her favorite cat. A security camera caught Suzanne leaving Sainsbury's at 8:51 a.m. At 8:54, she was caught on another camera on North St. David Street, not far from where she worked. People would never take another picture of her after those. After a few minutes, Suzanne was gone. Her co-workers noticed right away that she wasn't there. She was never late or unreliable. By the afternoon, people were getting more worried, so her parents were called. By 8 o'clock at night, Suzanne Pilley had been formally reported missing. The police looked through her flat. There was no damage to the cash, her visa, or the medicine she had left behind. There was no activity in her bank accounts. Mercury, her cat, didn't have a plan for care other than her mother coming to visit the night before. This would never happen to someone who loved her pets very much. It was clear that she didn't want to leave. Investigators looked at video from dozens of security cameras around Thistle Street as they searched the city heart. They put together her last steps, which were to walk through the grocery store and pay at the register. But the thing that stood out the most was that there was no video of her going into her office building. There were only a few meters between her and where she went. There were no cams inside the building. The search got tougher the next morning. Detectives went to her place of work, checked her flat again, and started talking to people in the area. A cab driver said that they had been parked near where Suzanne was last seen a few minutes before her shift. He wasn't thought to be a suspect, but his story added something to the timeline. Soon, the cops turned their attention to Suzanne's close friends and family, thinking they might have a reason to help them. Mark Brooks, her new boyfriend with whom she had spent the night before, was quickly ruled out. He had a good excuse. After that, everyone looked at another guy, David Gilroy. Before she met Mark, Suzanne had a long and troubled relationship with David, who worked at the same company as her. They dated on and off for more than a year. Gilroy was in the Royal Navy for a while, and then worked at Infrastructure Managers Linda Dutched as a regional operations manager. But David Gilroy was married and had 2 kids. During a short time away from his wife Andrea, he moved in with Suzanne. At first it looked good, but Suzanne's friends noticed that things were unstable. There were long stretches of silence, fights, and then reconciliations. This never-ending loop was wearing her out. David Gilroy was questioned by police on May 6, 2010, just 2 days after Suzanne went missing. The meeting went on for 11 hours. He confirmed that he had been seeing Suzanne, but he said they broke up in December, months before she told him. Investigators, on the other hand, were not sure. David said that after the relationship stopped, he went back to his wife and kids to try to fix the problems in his marriage. He also said that Suzanne had moved on. In his mind, it was over, a romance from the past that didn't matter anymore. But then something happened that no one could miss. As the cops questioned David, they saw scratches all over his arms and hands. They were either brand new or just barely healed. Officers took pictures of them to record what happened. Something strange stood out when they looked more closely. Some of the scratches looked like they had been covered up with makeup. It made me think of a scary question. Why would a man who has been in the military and is known for being calm and disciplined put on foundation to hide small wounds? David didn't give a good reason. For the police, though, it was clear what it meant. Someone or something was trying to hide something. David Gilroy did show up at work on the morning of May 4th, the day Suzanne went missing, but he was significantly later than his normal start time. People who worked with him and knew how cool and professional he usually was knew right away that something was wrong. David didn't seem as calm as normal. He was sweating, he looked worried, and his eyes were dull and unable to focus. His pupils looked bigger than usual. As the search for Suzanne went on and fear spread through Edinburgh, David called the police for no reason. That wasn't to give new information or see how the case was going. He instead said there had been a break-in. He said that he and his wife heard noises downstairs in the middle of the night. The back door had been pushed open when they checked. His phone and laptop were not in the house. The report quickly made people suspicious. A few days after Suzanne went missing, the only things that were taken were his personal electronics. These are the kinds of things that could store information about conversations, search histories, or locations. There were no witnesses, and not even the most expensive things that were lying around in plain sight were taken from the house. It seemed like a far too random event. Investigators were not able to find those devices. But David's answer didn't really clear things up. Luckily, Suzanne's phone was found, along with a record of the calls she made in her last few weeks. The cops found a story that was very different from the one David was telling. Sharon had sent David several texts to end the relationship, making it clear that she wanted it to end. She even told him about Mark, the new guy she was seeing. Even so, she saw David again the weekend before she went missing. Around that time, he started acting more and more obsessively. David sent a lot of texts in a short amount of time. He sent up to 64 texts in one day. Many of the texts were short and repeated, which showed that the person didn't want to let go. The trend got worse until May 3rd, the day before Suzanne disappeared. David sent her 15 texts that day. One of them said he would always love her. He also left a message. Then, just as quickly as they did, the messages stopped. There were no calls or texts after May 4th. Family and friends of Suzanne had always known that the relationship was troubled. It had never been even. David wanted to be in charge, which made the environment scary. There were fights, tricks, and hints of threats. Suzanne did everything she could to keep him out of her house at Christmas. He had been doing more and more scary things in the weeks before she went missing. He got into her personal email, went through all of her things, threw some things out the kitchen window, and stole her phone. Even though each event may have seemed small on its own, all of them together showed a pattern of obsession and lack of control getting out of hand. After little more than 2 weeks, the cops made their position clear. The case of Suzanne Pilley was no longer looked at as a missing person. It was now seen as a murder probe. They looked into more things the next day. Detectives started a big search that went over hundreds of miles of rough country. They also asked people in the area for any information they might have. It had been 2 weeks, and Suzanne was still missing. The police found that David couldn't handle Suzanne leaving him. They thought he was going to talk to her in the morning of May 4th, 2010. Like any other day, he dropped his daughter off at school and then took the bus to Thistle Street. At 8:36 a.m., he walked into the building, and at 8:40 a.m., he used his work computer to log in. But instead of getting to work, he walked around the hallways and waited. Sometime later, Suzanne was seen coming up behind them. Detectives thought David caught her and drew her into the underground parking lot. What went on in that shed wasn't caught on camera. What happened behind those concrete walls is still a secret, but police think that a heated argument got worse and ended with David killing Suzanne. They said that her body was dragged to a dark hallway where no one could see it. In the morning at 9:15, David walked into the office with a calm air, as if nothing strange had happened. But his co-workers noticed something was off about him. He was sweaty, nervous, and scratched all over. Even though he took the bus to work that morning, David suddenly said he had to leave to get his car from home. He made another strange move before he did that. A work meeting that was supposed to happen over the weekend was moved to the very next day by him. The new spot was Lochgilphead, a small town in Argyll that was about 130 miles away and in the middle of nowhere. Strangely, the co-worker who was meant to go with him was told quickly not to. There was no clear reason for the trip to happen, but David insisted on going anyway. He stopped at a store and bought 4 cans of air freshener on his way home to get the car, which was caught on CCTV. Later, investigators thought he might have been trying to hide a smell. David was seen going back to the basement garage more than once while he was at work. He finally put Suzanne's body in the trunk of his car when he thought it was safe to do so. Nothing seemed to have changed in his home life that night. He smiled, talked, and seemed calm while going to a show and eating dinner at a restaurant with his wife and kids. The whole time, Suzanne's body was locked in the trunk of his parked car outside. David left home early the next morning for the last-minute work trip. Suzanne hadn't been seen in over 30 hours at that point. He left at 11 a.m., but didn't get to the meeting until 4:30 p.m., even though the trip should have taken 3 hours. There was no record of the extra time. The same strange thing happened on the way back. What was supposed to be a 40-minute drive took almost 2 hours. The amount of petrol his car used was also unusually high for such a simple journey. It is thought by detectives that David went off the main roads and into remote, wild areas in Argyll. He had time and privacy to get rid of Suzanne's body in those secret places. It was also thought that he took the spare tire out of his car's trunk to make more room for her body. When the cops finally searched the car, they didn't find any DNA, but cadaver dogs were very alert 3 times, once in the parking garage and twice at the back of the car. Inside, police also smelt the strong smell of cleaning products, which meant that someone had tried to remove evidence by scrubbing it off. Now that investigators had this knowledge, they went to the public with their plea. Detectives asked people in the area and people who were traveling to remember if they had seen a silver car parked in strange spots on unclassified roads near forest tracks or standing by itself on quiet stretches. They made it clear that the position of the sighting was more important than details like a registration number. A lone car parked in a remote area or a man seen standing next to it could be the key to finding out what happened to Suzanne. The police began to charge Suzanne a month after she was last seen. David Gilroy, who was 47 years old at the time, was charged with murder and disturbing the peace. Even though the charges were very serious, he was released on bail while he waited for his sentencing. David was charged with murder as well as beating his wife Andrea and making threats against his 2 children between January 2009 and May 2010. In the end, these charges were dropped. An argument with a man named Scott came up as another claim. David was said to have threatened to stab Scott after a heated argument outside of Suzanne's flat. David's family stood by him even though he was being accused. His wife, Andrea, and other family members openly backed him up, saying that he had broken up with Suzanne and was now focused on rebuilding his family. In their story, Suzanne was the one who had trouble letting go, which was the exact opposite of what the cops had found. At the same time, people continued to look for Suzanne's body across the vast Scottish Highlands. Detectives talked to more than 1,000 official witnesses and almost 1,500 possible witnesses. The case is so complicated that the Crown Office hired 3 full-time lawyers to work on it. Scotland had never seen a murder trial as hard as the one they were facing. There was no body, no DNA, and no clear proof from the police. The whole case was based on a chain of clues, behavioral analysis, and David's own actions that didn't make sense. David Gilroy claimed everything even though there was proof. He insisted he wasn't guilty and wouldn't say anything about Suzanne's disappearance. But in February 2012, almost 2 years later, he was put on trial for murder and tried to stop the legal system from working. David chose not to talk in court. The prosecution said that even though some of the evidence was weak, it was strong altogether. The scratches on his body, the repetitive pattern of his messages, and the damage to his car's suspension all pointed in the same direction. They said David was possessive, controlling, and fixated, and that he would not accept being turned down. When Suzanne broke up with him, he started acting desperate. Prosecutors said he killed her when he saw that she was moving on after sending her a lot of texts and bothering her. After that, he planned every move, acting cool in public while carefully hiding what he had done. The rest of the trial was mostly about the evidence, which included surveillance footage, data from cell phones, and a forensic study of the car. Experts said that David's scratches and bruises looked like those someone would get from pulling and holding someone down. Finally, the judges gave their decision. They came back with a majority vote after days of thinking about it. David Gilroy was found guilty of murder and trying to stop the rule of law. The judge talked to Gilroy directly and told him that Suzanne was a respected and liked worker at the Thistle Street office. After breaking up with him for good, she was getting ready to start a new part of her life. She left for work on May 4th, 2010, but she never got there. The jury was sure she was killed, and her body was hidden. The court gave the only sentence that could be given under Scottish law, which is life in jail with a minimum of 18 years. Prison did not calm things down. Gilroy was attacked by other prisoners not long into his sentence and broke his jaw. He was moved to keep him safe. He afterward tried to get his conviction overturned, but the Criminal Appeals Court didn't agree with him. He also tried to take it to the UK Supreme Court, but was turned down. It was impossible to get justice, but the pain never went away. On the 4th anniversary of Suzanne's absence in 2014, her family talked about how sad they were still. Robert Pilley, her father, said that the search would not be over until Suzanne was found. Robert died in 2019, and he never found out where his daughter's body was buried. Police Scotland has always said that the case is still open. Police keep saying that any tip could help them find Suzanne and bring her home. Gail Fairgrieve, Suzanne's sister, has taken care of her family. She agrees that her sister was killed and that the person who did it is now in jail. But the family can't fully heal until Suzanne's body is found. Gail has asked anyone who knows something to look inside themselves. She says this plea isn't for them, but for Suzanne, so they can give her a proper funeral and say goodbye. The body of Suzanne has never been found as of this writing. As of now, David Gilroy is still in jail, unwilling to say what really happened. In court, justice was done for her family, but they still can't say goodbye. As they said, the door is not closed in this case. It is only slightly open until Suzanne is brought home. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Your support means more than words can express, and it allows this channel to continue creating content that promotes awareness, mindfulness, and critical thinking. Every view, comment, and share strengthens this community and helps build a space where curiosity, caution, and understanding come together. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and turn on all notifications so you never miss a new video. Don't forget to like, share, and comment below. Your engagement helps this channel reach more people and build a community that values staying informed and aware. Every interaction, from a single comment to sharing the video with friends, stay safe, stay cautious, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next video.